Uh, so we already installed the MongoDB, and two options are there. So everyone got this Mongo Compass also, right? You installed Mongo Compass. Yeah, right. So the UI tool is also available with us. So now we will see how we can work with them. Now for that, first, already yesterday I told you, we need to understand how we can create database first for any project. For that, we need some database models. So what are the database models we have? So we have a conceptual model, we have a physical model, we have logical model, and we have entity model. So the difference between them, we discuss it. So by using these models, we will create the databases and all actually in real world projects. First, we have to learn the commands, how to create database, how we can work with the database. Let's see. So first point, in order to work with MongoDB database, you have to log in into the client. So how to log in into the client, I showed you. Open the command prompt. So we have to change to cd program files, cd MongoDB, cd server, cd 5.0 is the version, cd bin. And here we have to type Mongo, and it connects to the Mongo server. So the server starts, and it is running now. We can run the commands here. So we will see some important commands. Actually, while learning MongoDB, in MongoDB, in other SQL database, the terms are little different. Actually, in other SQL databases, we have the terms like database. Database is the location where data is stored. In MongoDB also database. And in database, it contains tables. So in MongoDB, we call these as collections. That means table means collection. In MongoDB, it will have collections. The tables are called collections. And we have in MongoDB, generally table have rows, or you call them as records. And here in MongoDB, we call it as document. The row is called as a document. Table is called as a collection. So concept is same. In other databases, you will have tables. Here, those tables are called collections. And it contains rows. Here we call them documents. And we will have fields. Fields are nothing but columns. Same here also we will have fields, columns, same. Only the table, document, these names will change actually. Generally, database can contain joins also. Here we call as embedded documents. Embedded documents. So these are the general terms difference how in other databases and how in MongoDB they work. So these are the general terms. So first step is we need to understand how to create a database. What are the commands? So the commands we have, MongoDB commands. Already into Classroom, I uploaded that entire documentation. Entire MongoDB I uploaded. Once verify that. Commands we have first important show DBS. This is the command which is used to see the list of databases. So show DBS, it shows the list of databases. So currently we have 3 databases. These are by default available with MongoDB. We have those databases. And that is the command show DBS. As I already told you, it is a case sensitive, capitalization matters. And it is to view all databases. DB to view current active database. Which database is currently active? To see that, we have to use the command DB. Currently, a database called test is active. So we want to create a database. Then we have to use database name. Use is the command. It works in 2 ways. It will create a database and changes into the database. So we are use shopping DB. Shopping DB is the database name. And enter, automatically the database created. That means switch it to DB, shopping DB. You type DB and see, it will show the current database. But database will not be in the list. Show DBS, it is not in the list. In order to see any database in the list, it should contain some tables actually. So without tables, you can't see the list. So we need to create tables inside the database. In order to store the data, we need to create tables. For example, we will take a real example like I already told you, Fake Store API. Let's go to Fake Store API. In this API, they have some data provided for us. Such similar type data we will create. We will create similar type of data. You see, they have the data, and in the data, you can see they have categories. Categories contains the list of categories: electronics, jewelry, men's clothing, so women's clothing. These are the categories. So we want the categories. So how to create a table? How we can create a table? So to create a table, so if you don't create a table, show DBS, you cannot see it in the list. To create a table, we have a simple command, DB. That means we have to use the command DB. And we need to use db dot create collection. capitalization matters. You have to write exactly in this way. db.create collection. So the create collection, and what is the name of the collection? That means table. So what is the name? So name, here we have a table name. I will give the name as TBL categories, like this. You can give any name. That is the table name. And actually, while creating table, you can define some options for table. We can have some options defined for table. Actually, options are defined as an object type with key and value. So some options are present inside this. What are options for creating table? That means to create table, we have to write db.create collection and table name and comma. We can write the options here. As an object, we have to define options. So what are the options we can define? Actually, we have options like auto index ID. We have an option auto index ID. It uses a Boolean value, true or false. Auto index ID. So auto index ID is nothing but it will generate a unique ID for every record. It will generate an unique ID for every record. Because I told you, so here we can index on any field. That means you don't need a primary key here. You can index on any field. Then automatically a primary key is generated. We call as auto index. ID is created. Now in the latest versions, they are removing this auto index ID. But all other versions have this auto index ID. There you have to mention you want it or not. So auto index ID, you can set it to true or false. That means you have to write auto index ID. So we can set it to false. If I don't want an auto ID to be generated, I want my own IDs to define, then I will keep it to false, auto index ID. Another important, we have to define the size, max, and capped. They are related to each other actually. Capped, size, max, and capped. Actually, max indicates it's a number. So max indicates how many records you want to allow. Limit of records. So limit of records. That means I want to allow some 10 records. I want to allow 100 records. That is fixed now. Once you create a specific max, then it is fixed. If you don't give max, remember these options are not mandatory. If you don't give max, it will store according to the memory available in your computer. Server memory. According to the server memory, it will store any number. It will change according to memory availability. Otherwise, you can restrict maximum how many. Now comes the point. So suppose I said maximum 10 records. Okay, good. Then if I try to add 11th record, what will happen? That depends on an option called capped. If you say capped can be set to true or false. Capped can be set to true or false. If I say capped as true, then what will happen is after 10 records, if you add 11th record, it will remove the first record and store the new record in the first place. That means gradually old records are removed and new records are added. That means if you add 10 more records, the old 10 records will go and the new 10 records will come. That is called capped. If you say capped false, by default it is false. If you say capped false, then what will happen is after 10 records, if you try to store one more record, 11, then it will say that you cannot store any more records. That means it will tell you that you reached the maximum limit, you cannot store more records. So capped true, allow to store, but by replacing the old ones. If you don't mention max, then there is no problem. It can store according to the memory available. And when it reaches the final memory, then it will replace the old ones. It will simply put a message saying that it is full, you cannot store anything. So that is capped. These are all optional. If you don't mention, max will be according to memory. Capped will be by default false. Auto index ID will be by default true. Size indicates how many bytes. This is also number. This indicates how many bytes of memory to allocate. How many bytes of memory you want to allocate for this table. Suppose I want to allocate 1 MB, but measurement is then in bytes only. That means 1 MB means how we have to define is open the calculator. Actually 1024 bytes. So 1024 bytes is equal to 1 kilobyte. 1024 bytes equal to 1 kilobyte. 1024 into 1024 is equal to 1 megabyte. This is 1 MB. You have to mention like this: 1 MB, 2 MB, GB, anything you have to write in bytes only. You have to calculate this and you have to define. 1 MB into 2, that means it will be 2 MB. This is 2 MB size. That means I want 2 MB memory to allocate, then I can give that 2 MB size. We can define that. This is basically how we can mention the size. So here we are dealing with the table and we can define these options. That means I am writing the options: auto index ID false and a comma. Next one, capped is true. Capped is true. Another one, so max is 10 and size I will copy this number. We have to remove the commas and put that number. This is 2 MB number. So I need to copy that number. So that is the number. And after defining that, hit enter. Then it says, so it is created. And see here, auto index ID false is not allowed for the collection. So that means it is not allowed for that particular collection because it can be replicated. So that is not available from the new versions, that is from 5. So that is from the 5 version, it's not allowed. Already I told you, in older versions you have, in the new version it's removed. 5 is very latest version. It is removed. So you define here auto index ID, suppose I said true. Because by default auto index ID, you don't need to mention that. And I see here it is defined and enter. Now it says it is deprecated. and will be removed in further release. So that means they are already showing a warning that currently we are keeping it for few more versions, and in future it will be removed. Don't use it. So better you can ignore that and don't use that, because already they given a warning that it will be removed. So better ignore this. Don't use it. Don't use that. So, but this is very important. This is very important. That means you need to define it. Now the table is ready. We created the table. We configured the table. You see, show DBS. In the databases, you have shopping DB available. You can see in the collection also. You can see in the collection also in graphical interface. Open MongoDB Compass. This is the MongoDB Compass. And in Compass, you can check the tables, the databases that you created. And here you can check. So let it log in here. Yeah. Now here you can see connect. You can directly click on connect. It will connect and it will show you the databases. Or yesterday I told you, you can use the URL to connect. So what is the URL? And this is Shopping DB. A database is created. If you want to create database, directly you can click this button, create database, and define the database name, table name, capped collection, everything. So I showed you through command. So we will better learn through command only and define through the command. So through command, we are configuring it. So through command, we are configuring it, and through the command only, we are defining it, right? Now, next point, open this and see. In that we have a collection called TBL categories. And in that maximum, we allocated 2 MB. Currently, it is occupying 4 KB. And there are no documents inside it. So empty, that is empty. So there is no content inside it. So we have to add some records into it. So this is one table. You can simply, without using options also, suppose we will create another table. Let's go to this fake store API and see here another categories data. Okay, fine. We have products data. You see, this is products data. We will maintain this products data also. Maintain that products data also. So then how we can configure and maintain the products data, let's see. We will maintain this products information also. Products information is, for that we need a table. So let's create another collection. db.create collection, and another name, TBL products. So we have TBL products, the table name defined. TBL products, that is the table name. And options, not mandatory. If you want to set some restrictions, then only these are defined. If you don't define options, by default, auto index will be true. By default, capped will be false. And max size and number of records depend on the memory available. Whatever memory available in your server, that will take. So defining the options is not mandatory every time. But what options are there, I showed you. The options are available. Now enter. So now you can see the create collection table is created. Now let's go to the Compass and see here. Once refresh, now we have 2 tables. So 2 collections inside this shopping DB. TBL products and TBL categories. That is, and that is tables available. How we can configure. You can see the tables here also. To see the tables, we have to use, first we need to see current database is ShoppingDB or not, and we have to run show collections. Show collections. Then it will display the collections. What are the tables available? It will show. We can just use show collections. So if you want to remove the database, if you want to delete the database, so then generally to remove the database, what we have to do is just we need to use remove command. That means we have to simply remove the database. Then from the command line, we have to just use the option remove. So how we can manage that? It means simple. These all options are common. If you want to remove, you can remove a collection. So if you want to remove, you can remove a database. You can delete any specific record or multiple records. You'll see that. Actually, to delete the records, because we don't have yet any records defined, so we need to just use this option db dot. First we will add some records and we will see. We need to insert some records, then we will see how to delete finally all these options. Actually, after creating the database, adding the collection, add data into that collection. If you want to add data into the collection, then first we have to use db dot collection name. Collection name is categories, TBL categories, dot. We have a method called insert. We have insert. Actually, now in the latest versions, so it is recommended to use not insert. Earlier, insert will work, but in future releases, they have mentioned that better use insert one or insert many. So insert command is deprecated. It's no longer available. So if you want to insert one record, then you can just use insert one. Insert one, and here we have to insert like an object. So that means you have to create like a JavaScript object. What is the field name, column name, and what is the value? What is the field name and value? That means for categories table, I want category ID. Category ID, that is the field name. And as per the rules of JavaScript object, the field names must be string type only string, no other types allowed. But the value can be any type. Here category ID, you put the value directly, number. The category ID 1 and comma, category name. Category name, what is the category name? I want to define the category name as a string. Suppose the category name. So we will use these category names here. You see, in this categories, this is the category name, electronics. So I will use the category name as electronics. I will use electronics. That is the category name. So we have two options, the category ID and the category name. And the category name is electronics. We are accessing that electronics. So, and enter. This one record is added. Acknowledged true. And an automatic ID is created for it. That is object ID. An auto ID is created. And this is the first record you are having. So insert one is used to insert a record. We can insert a record. Now let's open the data, refresh. Now in the shopping, you have categories, and open the categories, and you can see it is having one record. How to see from the command prompt, I will show you what are the commands from the command prompt. This is inserting one record. Okay. Suppose I want to insert multiple records. Then db.tbl categories dot insert many we have to use. Many records, you know, many records means it is an array type. Many records, it is an array type. That means in JavaScript based environment, many means array. So array of objects. In this, we have category ID. Category ID. Already we stored 1, 2. Then category name. Another category is here. We will use the category. So this is jewelry. So that is the category. So I am using that jewelry as the category. Okay. Next, another record. Then you have to put a comma and another object. And here we have to define. So next. So here we need to define category ID. And this is 3. And category name. Don't put enter by yourself. If you hit enter, the command is terminated. That is the problem in command line you will see. Now, automatically it comes to next line, continue. So the category name, and the category name, another category is men's clothing. That is the category name. So I kept that men's clothing. So that is the men's clothing. So men's clothing, that is the category name defined. That is men's clothing. Okay. And I want to add one more record. Then put again comma and object, the category ID. Category ID is 4. And category name. So we want this women's clothing. I'll copy that. And that women's clothing is that. Like this, you can insert many records. Generally, in SQL-based databases, you have to use the commands like insert into table, fields, and all this. Create database commands are there. Tables, create table command is there. We don't need to do all that. Here, just JavaScript-based everything. Insert for inserting one record. Insert one for inserting one record. Insert many for inserting many records. That's quite simple. And hit enter. Now you can see all the records are added. And you can see now in the database. So here I refresh and you can see all the 4 records are there. That means we have the command category electronics, we have jewelry, we have men's clothing, we have women's clothing, everything. These are all the categories we created in the database. Now what we are going to do is we are going to create the similar type of APIs by ourselves. So fake store, instead of fake store API, we will create our own API like this, which can handle data for us. So we don't need to go to fake store API now. So we can use our own API and handle it. Here, some more we will add into this. But initially, so this is creating a table and adding data into table. So we created a database. So that is use shopping DB. And we changed in the database, we created tables, db.create collection, and 2 tables, one TBL categories, that is one. Another one we created create collection and TBL products. two tables we created. Options are optional. And for first one, we given some options like auto index ID is true and capped is true. So like max, how much? So the 10 records, size, how many? So the length we can define in bytes like this, roughly. This is creating table. And after that, inserting records into table. So db dot, so we have a table name, TBL categories dot insert one. Insert one record like this. That means here we have to define the key. That means it is actually field name and value. So all JavaScript based data types set the options, string type, number type, Boolean type, object type, array type. Everything is JavaScript based only. And no need to explain what JavaScript object can contain. Already we know this. If you want many records, db.tbl categories dot insert many. Here we have to use an array and array of objects. You know how do we define array of objects? We can configure the array of objects in this. That is depending on how you want to add the records and configure them. These are the commands that we have to define. Commands we need to configure. So by using the commands, we can specify that. So if you want to see what are the tables, what are the records present inside the table, then we have to use another command for that. So this is creating database, creating table, adding records into the table. Similarly, we will add records into products table also. In the products table, you see a lot of data is there. Now, generally, you can add that from graphical mode also. We will use the database from their website only. That means they have the images from their website. You see, this is the image. We will use the images from their website because images you can access from live servers also. Means in their website, they have some photos. We will use those photos only, image URL. So that means you see, I can separately request that URL of the photo and hit enter. It can get that image and show. That means they provided this image, so you can freely use that image. That is the URL of the image. You can use it directly. So we will use that. We will use that image and see that. So that is basically this data we will use. Means whatever data they given, the same data. We can change prices and other information we can change actually. So you can add hundreds of records like this and you can store them. You can use the same data. You can create all of these again. So in TBL products, let's go to the graphical mode because from command mode already I showed you. Let's go to the graphical mode. In the graphical mode, this is the database. Now here already table is there, our shopping DB. In the shopping DB, we have TBL products. In the TBL products, you will find an option. Add data. This collection has no data. You can click add data. And here you have to select insert document. Insert document. Actually, two options are there. Insert document, import file. Import file is JSON file. You can upload the JSON file and you can import that file so that all the data from the file will come. Or individually, you can add every document like this. Insert document. And in insert document, when you select insert document, so it will open like this. Here we can write the document. So that means here we need to add the document. But this is only one record you can add. You have to enter all the details. So what is the ID and what is the title? All these details you have to enter. So you have to enter like this. Or from command prompt also you can do. Command prompt also you can do. Command prompt already I showed you what we have to do. db dot. Here we have a create collection tbl products dot insert many, and you can add that array. That entire array you can paste here. So you copy all the data from that and you paste here. Or you can create your own. That means your own means you can write all of them one by one now. Like first one is ID. So after that, so ID what value. Then we have title. So title, what title, description, what description. They have given 20, 30 products information, everything you can design like this. Instead of that, what we will do is, so instead of doing this, what we can do here is, we'll do one thing. So we will check this data. We will save as JSON. That means you open this API data, copy all this record, and copy this, and you can simply go to your computer, open Notepad, and paste in the Notepad directly. All the data paste into Notepad. After pasting this data into Notepad, just what you have to do is, so just go to File, Save, and save this in your project location. Suppose our project location is C drive, 4 PM full stack. In that I have docs or data. In the data I will create here as, so shopping products. Okay. And this is extension.json. We have to use the extension.json, shopping products.json. But actually it is saved as text file. If I say shopping products.json, save and close it and open the project location, and our project location is this, yeah. And in this project location, so we created that file in data. We have shopping products.json file. This data is there. Now in the data folder, we have all this data. Now actually you can directly add it, but we created entire data that is completely available here. Okay. So that means another technique is nothing but, instead of going to Notepad, you can do one more work. I will show you that. Let me delete this. You can do one more work. You go to your project now. Simply in the project, we have data folder. In that, create a new file and give the file name as some products.json. And inside this file, just paste the API data, whatever you have this from the products, and paste that everything here. That's ready. Same thing. You can do anyway, right? Doesn't matter. Now this we want in our database. If you want, you can make some changes now. All the 20 products. So here we have some data. They have some different prices. You can change the price. You can change the description. You can add some more records if you want. You can do it. So you can manage here from here. I just leave whatever it is having, doesn't matter. So data is important for us. I just given that. Okay. Now data is ready in products JSON. We want this to be stored in the database. Then we will go to our MongoDB and here add import file. So what file? So browse in our project data, we have that products JSON file. What is the type? JSON, automatically selected for that. And just import. And that file is imported. 20 records imported, done, ready. That means entire data is ready. All the 20 records are present here. That means now we have all the data in our project. Means all the data in our local database. Now we need to create the records. We need to fetch these records and use them in our projects now. We don't need fake store API now, because whatever they provided, the same we have here. And we can use it now. We can use it. So that is generally how we manage the data for our application. I showed you two techniques. Manually you can add. So, or you can import from existing JSON document. You can maintain all your data in a JSON document and you can upload it and it is created. That's fine. So now the data is ready. Two tables we created. So one is categories table, another one products table. We will do one more thing. So we will create a table for registration also, so that user can register, and after registering they can log in, and only when the username password verified from the table, if the username and password is correct, then allow to access the project. Otherwise restrict that authentications we want to give. Then we will maintain one more table, and the table is, so we will maintain one more table. So db.create collection, and I will give as TBL users. That is the table, TBL users. So users table. Okay. In that we don't have any users. You can keep one or two users, or later you can ask them to register. Sample, 1-2 users we will keep. One user I will keep sample. Other users, we need to create a registration form. By using the registration form, they need to fill up and submit. And that information must be stored in the database. Later, when they log in, it should verify from this location and check it. That's what we want to create. So how we can create? So db.tbl users dot insert one. We will insert one record. What you want inside that? I want user name. Suppose let's keep John_NIT. That is the username. So that is the username. So let's keep, John_NIT. That is string type. Okay, next what? I want password. So username, password. So password, some John123. Okay. Next what? So I want email, some string type john@gmail.com. That's the option we have. So username, email. And next I want mobile. So, and mobile. Suppose say +91, some 9876543210, 10 digits number, something like this. These are the details we will take from the user while registration. We can add so many, whatever we want. So username, password, email, mobile, these are enough. Okay. This is table. The table is ready. That means it's inserted, it's ready. Now we have the table ready. Now we have users table, products table, and categories table. These are the options available. So these are the tables created. Now you see the database you are having. Shopping DB, refresh these databases you are having. So TBL users also there. In TBL products, we have all the 20 records here. And these are all the 20 records we are having. And go to shopping categories. We have the 4 categories: electronics, jewelry, men's clothing, and all. And one more, we have users. And in the users, we have username, password, email. So mobile and all these details are available. Now we need to work with this database in the front end now. For that, we need a lot of work. We are just creating the database first, right? So now we learned 3 important things. One is creating database, creating tables. Tables means we call them as collections, and inserting documents into collection. That means adding records into the collection. That is the process. So create database, create collections, and insert documents into the collection. Next, after that, we need to know how to see the data, because in graphical interface, it is directly visible. It is directly visible. In the database, directly in the graphical interface, it's visible. But from command prompt, we need to learn some techniques. How to display the data. I want to see the data present in products table. So first DB, first check whether you are in the shopping DB or not. If it is not, then you have to use the command use shopping DB. This will switch into the database. Already we are in the shopping DB. Now here, I want to see what are the tables available. Show collections. Show collections will show the tables. I want to see what is in the categories table. Then we have to use db.tbl categories dot find command, just like you have learnt array. In array, you learnt array methods. In array methods, you learnt map, filter, find commands. Here, find command is used to display all the records. That means here the find command is used to display all the records. That means whatever records are there, it is going to display all those records. The find command is going to display all the records. Just find. And enter, you can see it will display all the records, but the way it displays is not clean to us. So we will add one more here. db.tbl categories dot find dot pretty. That pretty will add this design, that layout. It will show it a clean form. That's it. Only find is also enough, actually. This is displaying the records, It is showing all the records. We can search also. Actually, in SQL based, for creating database, we have a create command. Create database name. And for creating table, so we have create table commands. So for inserting records, we have the insert command, insert into table, like that. For searching, that means for querying, actually, the SQL based database, they use select star from table. So, or they use like where the queries they will use here. Here we need to write the queries. The queries we need to define. Actually, in MongoDB, we don't need that. Just find command. Suppose you see db.tbl products.find.pretty. It is showing all the 20 records available. So TBL products, so find.pretty. Or is that DB, shopping DB, show collections. Okay, So TBL products uppercase is there, right? Yeah. So db.tbl products.find.pretty. So you can see that it is showing all the records. But every record have a lot of data here. So it is having a lot of data here. It is showing all the records. 20 records are there. Now in MongoDB, how you can query exactly what we want. Suppose I want to find the record whose ID is 10, 10th record. I want to see that. Then we can use db.tbl products.find.pretty. Inside this find, we need to write the query. Like an object, you have to write the query. What is the query? Query is, so ID colon, I defined 10. That means I want to display the 10th record, ID 10, because it's a number. And you see 10th record will come. And this is the ID 10th record. So its title, its price, its information will display. Actually the same. So we have to write like select from table where ID is equal to 10. Like this we write. Now here we have to just use the find command. And here we need to write the query ID is 10 like this. You can search by title, you can search by name. Here a lot of queries are there. We need to understand all the queries we need to understand. That means I want all the products whose price is above 100. I want the title I want all the products whose category is electronics. That means then what we do here, db.tbl products.find.pretty. In the find, we are writing here. So the command that is category colon electronics. Then it have to display only electronic products. You see in the result, it is going to display only the electronic products are displayed. So object ID 9, object ID 10, only the electronic products. Object ID 11, 12, 13, these are the electronic products. So only the electronic products are displayed, others are not displayed. We can also write very complex queries like, so sales price is about this, price is below this, greater than, less than. We can search, we can find the queries. But for that, we need to learn how to write various kinds of queries and define them, right? So that we will see in our next session, because this is enough. You have to first practice. I will not go with much topics every day now, because if you don't practice, it is too complicated. You can't handle. In the backend technology, especially every day, day by day, you need to practice, right? Otherwise, you can't handle. You cannot understand properly. That's the reason up to this, you try. Then next step, we will see how to query, how to insert, how to update, how to delete records, how to delete tables, how to delete the databases, how we can add a new record, update the record, modify the records. All these things we will learn, delete the records and everything, right? So first you practice this today up to what we have learned. Then tomorrow we will continue with the other queries, how to work with them. Once we finished learning all the queries, then we can go into server-side technology, where we will learn how to create APIs, communicate with the database, bring the data and display and all this. So that we will see in our next session. Tomorrow we will continue. And I already announced people who are in